Hey, how are you? How is Sarah? Oh, hello. Sarah and I parted ways, huh? You were such a good couple. Not everything is as smooth as it seems from the outside, but what happened? To be honest, it's easier to start the story from the beginning, because even at the beginning of the relationship we had problems, but I pretended not to notice them. I understand. If you need to talk, I'm all ears. Okay, so do you recall meeting Sarah with me 6 years back? At that time, I had just come out of a really bad relationship. It ended horribly when I walked in on my ex in bed with another man. As you can imagine, I was really upset about it. Yeah, I remember that. It was tough. That experience really messed me up emotionally, and I still carry a sense of insecurity with me to this day. But Sarah and I connected over something we had in common. We had both been cheated on. She had also been through a tough time with her first boyfriend betraying her multiple times. That's really great, that you found someone who could understand what you were going through. Definitely. When all this was happening, I had just left the Navy and didn't have anywhere to stay. To make things worse, my parents were also homeless, living in the basement of their friend's office building. That's when Sarah's mom came to the rescue and offered me a place to stay with them until I could find my own place. That was really kind of her. Yeah, it was amazing. So after I started living with Sarah and her family, things between us got pretty serious and we started having love. But we still weren't officially a couple, at least not in front of other people. Got it. And then what happened? The first sign that something might not be right in our relationship happened at a party at my friend Mike's cabin. We were all there, Sarah, me, and a bunch of our high school friends. But the problem was that Mike had a major crush on Sarah, and it was a secret. Oh boy, that doesn't sound good. Yeah, it wasn't. That night at the party, Sarah and Mike kept talking about wanting to test out their ability to handle the cold by sleeping in a tent. So, I started setting up my own sleeping area in the tent. But then, out of nowhere, Sarah dropped the shock on me. The tent was a 2-person tent, and she was going to share it with Mike. Wait, what? That's not okay, I know, right? I was beyond upset and hurt when Sarah told me she was going to share the 2-person tent with Mike. It was like I was living through my previous relationship's betrayal all over again. But I didn't want to make a scene or start a fight, so I just took a step back and let them go through with their plan. And what happened next? About a month later, I stumbled upon some Facebook messages between Mike and his brother that revealed what had actually happened in the tent. Apparently, Sarah and Mike had made out and cuddled for warmth. I was devastated that Sarah hadn't told me about it, and it hurt me deeply. That day she found me sitting on the kitchen floor, and she came over and cuddled up next to me. That's really tough. It was. When I finally confronted Sarah about what had happened in the tent with Mike, she claimed that she had forgotten all about it because she was so drunk that night. But when I spoke to Mike, he revealed that they had both agreed to keep it a secret. I was really worried about what this meant for our relationship, but I loved Sarah so much that I decided to forgive her. That's really understandable. You wanted to make it work with her. Exactly. For the next 3 years, Sarah and I had an incredible relationship. We were close, had open communication, and went on trips with each other's families. It was everything I'd wanted in a relationship, and I truly believed that we would only get stronger with time. It sounds like a dream. At one point, Sarah and I had moved in together into our own apartment, and I thought everything was going really well. She was working full-time as a CNA at the hospital and going to nursing school, all while also working as an EMT on an ambulance. I was really proud of her for her ambition and dedication to her work. But something changed? Yeah. As time went on, I began to feel like Sarah wasn't putting in as much effort into our relationship as I was. Our close life started to slow down, and she stopped reciprocating my back massages or any physical affection. She also wouldn't clean the apartment, even when I asked her to help out. These little things started to become a big problem and a point of contention between us. That sounds really frustrating. It was. Things started to really unravel between us. We were bickering more often, drifting apart, and not spending as much quality time together. We had a tough conversation about potentially breaking up, but ultimately we decided to give it another shot and try to work things out. And what happened after that? The day after our tough conversation, I impulsively sent Sarah a text saying that I didn't believe anything in our relationship was going to change, and that maybe we should see other people. As soon as I hit send, I regretted it and wished I had waited until we could talk about it more in person. That must have been really tough. It was. Looking back, I think that text was the moment our relationship officially died. After that, things just started to go downhill. We tried to work on it, but it felt like we were just going through the motions and not really connecting anymore. Eventually, we both came to the realization that it was time to move on from each other. Did you no longer communicate with Sarah after the breakup? After we broke up, Sarah and I were still texting each other every day. She went to stay with her mom for a while, but we promised each other that we were both still committed to trying to make things work between us. That sounds like you were really dedicated to each other. Yeah, we were. Unfortunately, things took a turn for the worse when Sarah's father fell seriously ill with a terrible disease that shut down all his organs. He was hospitalized for over 2 months, and everyone was really worried that he wouldn't make it. That must have been really tough on both of you. It was. During that time, Sarah was understandably really depressed, and she tried to distract herself by throwing herself into her work. I did my best to support her and her family in any way I could. Even though I worked nights at the hospital, I would still try to come in and visit Sarah's dad whenever I had some spare time. That's really kind of you. You must have cared a lot about her family. I did. Things between Sarah and me were getting really strained after that. She was pushing me away and spending a lot of time with her friend Amanda, who I had never even met before. It was starting to make me feel really uneasy. That sounds really suspicious. Yeah, it was. I remember this one time when we had planned a low-key night in together, but Sarah canceled on me and went to stay at Amanda's house instead. When she came back, she apologized and said she shouldn't have gone. That must have been really hard for you to deal with. It was. Things went from bad to worse when we were on a Valentine's Day date, and I took a picture of Sarah at the restaurant to post on Facebook, but when she saw it, she asked me not to post it because her friends didn't approve of us being together. That really hurt me, and we ended up getting into a huge argument about it. She eventually left to go stay at her mom's house, and we hardly spoke after that. It sounds like the relationship was already over at that point. This happened 3 weeks ago, and so far we have not met or called each other. Apparently this is the end and we broke up. It sounds like you were really trying to make things work, but sometimes life just gets in the way. Yeah, that's true. I know it's time to move on. Cameron, I have news. Huh? What is it? Sarah and I are back together? What? How long have you been together? 1.5 weeks. What's up? Well, the thing is, I saw Sarah with another man at a bar 4 days ago. They were sitting close together, hugging, and then they kissed before leaving the bar. What? Why didn't you tell me about this? You had told me that you two had broken up. I didn't want to upset you with the news. Are you joking? No, I'm not. It was definitely Sarah. If you don't believe me, you can check for yourself and see. Okay, thank you. I'll consider it. She really is cheating on me. How did you know about it? Normally, I'm not the type of person who feels the need to track someone's location. But after everything you've told me, I couldn't help but feel suspicious. Have you tried talking to her? Every time I tried to talk to Sarah about it, she would just get angry and accuse me of not trusting her. It was really frustrating and made me feel like I was going crazy. It sounds like she was gaslighting you, making you feel like you were in the wrong for even questioning her. That's not a healthy dynamic in a relationship. Exactly. Yesterday, when I saw that Sarah was at a fancy restaurant, it felt like a gut punch. She had been telling me that she was out with some girlfriends from work, but I just knew something wasn't adding up. And when she stopped replying to my texts, I realized that I had to take matters into my own hands and figure out what was really going on. Can you tell me more about that? Yeah, man, it was crazy. Then my gut feeling was telling me that something was off. So I decided to drive over to Sarah's house to see if she was really there. When I arrived, I saw that her car was in the garage, but there was another unfamiliar car parked in the driveway. Oh man, apparently this is the same car that I saw near the bar. Maybe, so I parked my car next to it and peered inside the window. That's when I saw an EMT ambulance driver badge and a man's face on the center console. My heart was pounding. I just knew Sarah was inside with some guy from work that I didn't even know. It was a really unsettling feeling. That must have been a shock. What did you do next? As I stood outside the house in the dead of night, I knew I had to find out the truth, so I made the decision to go inside. The front door was unlocked, so I quietly walked in and made my way to the bedroom. I was expecting to catch them in the act, but they weren't there. Instead, what I found was enough proof for me. What was there? Both of their clothes were scattered around the room, and the bed was completely disheveled. It was obvious they had just recently had love on it. It was a really heartbreaking moment for me. That's terrible, man. How did you feel when you saw that? At that point, my heart was pounding out of my chest, and I was feeling really upset, having flashbacks to my past relationship. I felt like I had to keep searching for them, so I decided to check the rest of the house. Finally, I made my way down to the second living room, and that's when I saw them. Jesus! He was shirtless on the couch, and she was standing up, trying to find a channel on the TV with the remote in her hand. When she saw me, her eyes widened with shock, like a deer in headlights. That must have been awkward. What did she say? When Sarah saw me, she just said, "Oh, hey, what are you doing here?" I was so angry and hurt. I looked her dead in the eyes and asked, "What are you doing?" She didn't even reply, which only made me more furious. It felt like she had been gaslighting me for so long, and I wasn't going to take it anymore. After a few seconds of tense silence, I turned around and stormed out of the front door, slamming it as hard as I could on the way out. "I'm sorry, man. Have you talked to her since then?" "No, I haven't. I don't think I ever will. I just can't believe she would do that to me. And what did you do next?" "When I got home, I was still feeling really upset and hurt. I knew I couldn't be with Sarah anymore, so I started packing up all of her belongings into trash bags and boxes. I even switched the electric bill into my name to make sure she didn't have any reason to come back. And to really cut ties, I blocked her on everything except for her phone number. It was a tough decision, but I knew it was the right one for me." "That's a tough situation, man. What did you do next?" "I decided to open up Life 361 last time to see where Sarah was heading, and that's when I saw that she was heading directly towards Amanda's house, which was 2 towns over. But what happened next is what really made everything click for me. Just 2 minutes later, she deactivated her location services on her phone, which was a clear sign that she was trying to hide her destination from me. That's when it all became clear. I realized that she had been cheating on me for months and manipulating me into thinking that my suspicions were unfounded. I'm so sorry, Andrew. That's a really tough thing to go through. How are you feeling right now? It's hard for me, but I'm holding on. Thank God I did not have time to propose to her since I really was going to. Oh, I understand. Take care of yourself. It's just kind of a shock. What happened? This morning, I had a conversation with Sarah's brother-in-law, and it was quite shocking. I was just explaining to him what had been going on, and that Sarah would probably need a truck to come get all of her things later. But he ended up telling me some pretty surprising, yet unfortunately not so surprising revelations. What did he say to you? Apparently, he overheard Sarah talking to her older sister at the dinner table a few weeks back. She was saying that some random guy from high school texted her out of the blue and offered her $150 for 5 nude pictures, and she took him up on the offer. It was a really disturbing and upsetting thing to hear. It's not the most pleasant story. On top of that, he mentioned that Sarah would regularly tell all of our personal business to her family at dinner when I wasn't there. It just added to the overall feeling of betrayal and hurt that I've been feeling lately. That's really messed up, man. How did you feel when you heard that? It was just unbelievable. I was already feeling hurt and betrayed. And then, to hear all of this, just added insult to injury. It turns out that Sarah was purposefully withholding love from me as a way to punish me for breaking up with her last summer. What? She said I didn't deserve it, so why should she give it to me? But all this time, she kept telling me it was because of her dad's poor health and her depression. It's just mind-boggling how she could manipulate me like that and lie to my face. It's so hurtful to think that someone could do that to someone they supposedly cared about. That's really tough to hear, man. And what did you do next? I also took all the things that I collected in a box to give to Sarah. I just threw it in the trash near the house. She's very fond of all her things, so I know that this will hurt her very much. She was supposed to come pick them up tonight, but I'll write to her now that there is no need for this. It's a little cruel, but I think she deserved it. Yeah, I think so.